Okay, so we want to take a look at the homework here for Mounce and look at the parsing and see if there's any questions here for exercise 9, adjectives. Remember, adjectives don't have just one gender, do they? So you're going to have opportunities for more variable answers than what you did with the nouns. So let's take a look and see what we come up with. Now, here is something I would recommend that you do as you're working through the homework, is to pull the chart that has all of the first and second declension case endings. So have that in front of you, because as we look at these case endings, we're going to want to compare them against our chart. Hopefully the chart's in your head, but just in case it's not, let's go ahead and get that chart out in front of you, and that way we can eliminate possibilities when we're parsing here. Okay. All right. So let's just start with agathon as an example here for number 1. Agathon. So, does anybody know what the lexical form of agathon is? Ah, yes. Agathon. And we'll just jot that down here. Whenever you are jotting down adjectives, I do recommend, pardon my little tiny alpha there, I recommend if it's an adjective that you go ahead and jot down all of the forms for the nominative singular so that you can remember a couple of things. One, you remember that in this case it is a 3-termination adjective and not a 2-termination adjective. And then secondly, you'll know if there's anything funky about the feminine and the neuter. Okay, and this will also remind you that it's an adjective and not a noun, right? Because you've got these multiple sorts of forms here for your lexical form. Now, what does agathos mean?
Good or useful.
It means good or useful. Let's go with good just for the time being. And we'll go ahead and jot that down, but remember, we want the inflected meaning, which means we have to go over here and ask ourselves, is this in a case that might require a little bit more information than just the meaning of the noun or adjective that we're parsing? In this situation, we have own for our case ending, right? And that's going to tell us something. It's going to tell us that this is genitive what? Genitive plural. Well, good. We've got that. Genitive plural. Own is always genitive plural, isn't it? Until we get to participles. and then we'll be confused all over again. But participles are on verbs, and this is an adjective. So thankfully, we shouldn't get these confused right now. Anyway, all right. What about the gender? Remember, the own ending obscures what? Yeah, it obscures the stem vowel. So you can't tell which stem this omega has obscured. And that leaves us a problem, doesn't it? So in terms of gender, what are my possibilities here? Could it be all 3?
No. It can only be masculine or neuter.
It could only be masculine or neuter.
Just kidding.
Are you trying to trick us?
She looked at me and I was like, oh yeah, you're right. No.
Yeah.
It was like the quiz for today. We planned it, so.
Mm-hmm.
God bless, guys.
That was a test.
So it could be all 3. It could be all 3. And you need to put all 3. Okay? Now, here's the thing. How many different functions of the adjective did we learn? 3. Attributive, predicate or predicative, and substantival. And that means that in terms of translating the meaning, the inflected meaning, there's really a whole lot of options for us, right? We could say, for example, a genitive keyword is of good. Should I put an S of goods? No, because in English, do our adjective forms take an S when they refer to something plural? No. I don't say bads boys right? I just say bad boys. No S on that. I don't say goods girls, just good girls. So we don't want to put an S on that. So we can't really reflect the plurality of the own on our English adjective. But if I'm going to use this as a substantival adjective, how would I translate this? Of good men, women, things, or ones. That would be the most generic, right? That could cover all three of these genders. If this were an attributive adjective, it would just be of good, and then there would be nothing after it, right? Because I need a noun to go with my attributive adjective. Of good men, of good books, of good words. But without any context, I don't really know what to put after. So of good would be a way to translate this. If it were a predicate use of the adjective, well, I don't have the rest of a sentence to tell me what is good, for one, and two, could this even be a predicate use of the adjective?
No.
No, because predicate adjectives are what case?
Nominative.
Nominative. Something is good, and I need a nominative form of good, and this is genitive, so I wouldn't even think about using a predicate adjective kind of translation here anyway. Okay, so of good ones, of good people. Okay, those are possibilities. Did anybody have a translation that they're wondering, would you even accept this? All right.
Okay,
Good.
if I just left it of good,
Uh-huh.
would that be okay?
Yep, that would be okay. Just with the understanding that it would have to be an attributive adjective there, right? Of good somethings,
Right.
and you just need the noun to go with it. But there's not one here, so.
But would I get more points off?
No, you wouldn't. If you're going to go with an attributive adjective, what I would recommend is that you would say something like of good, and then put a line for whatever word would have, and put an S there. So of good men, of good books, of good mice.
Just to show that
Mices.
we understand that it's genitive and
Nieces.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Taylor?
Since the other word that you could use is useful, you wouldn't say of useful. Would you say of use?
No, because it is an adjective here. So of useful people, right? I'm getting tired of useful people. I think that's something that corporate presidents say, right? let's obfuscate what we shouldn't. No, so of useful people, of useful things, of useful ones. Yeah, so useful would be good. Useful and good are both adjectives. You should translate agathos mostly as good, though. Yeah. All right. Any other questions? All right. From 2 to 10, are there any of these that stumped you you'd like to ask more specifically about? If you don't, I'll go through some more, but I'd like to give you an opportunity to ask your questions. Which ones gave you fits? Which ones were not useful to you?
For number 10,
Mm-hmm.
could that be genitive singular?
Good question. What is the lexical form you were given for this word? Allelone. If you look at allelone, what do you notice about the ending there? Yeah, that own is what? You own this, don't you? It's always what? Genitive, plural. Yes? So what does this mean? Wasn't this one of your vocab words?
Yes.
Was it this chapter?
Nine.
It was chapter 9, right? So what does it mean?
Of one another.
Okay. Good. One another. So how many people are involved in the concept of one another? 2 or more. Okay? At least 2. You can't have a singular one another, right? I really love one another. Myself and I, we love one another. Now, so there's always an I and a you in one another, and there's always more than one in one another. So, but we told you that the lexical form is always what case?
Genitive.
It's always nominative, unless you have a form like this. Because whenever you're one anothering, you can never both one another and be nominative at the same time. Right? Does that make sense? So you love one another, you're going to accusative case one another. If we are walking away from apa, alone, we're walking away from one another. If we do this for one another, dative case, right? But we can't really be one another in the sense of, like we, one another are here, right? We would just say we are here.
Yeah.
You see? So we have a problem because there just ain't no nominative case form of one another. So what do? Well, in my order of cases, it goes what? Nominative, genitive, dative, accusative. And since the concept of one another can't be singular, guess what we're stuck with for our lexical form? We've got to use the genitive case and we've got to use a plural form. Okay? So this is why our lexical form is alelon. Okay? So just going back to this, we have what? You were asking, can this be genitive singular? The answer is no, it can't be, right? Because we can't have a singular form of one another. So this would have to be what? Yeah, accusative plural, right? Accusative plural. So these are women who love alelas, who love one another, for example, or who hate one another, but they're the direct object. The one another is the object of the verb. Or maybe if I have a preposition that takes the accusative case for its object, like we learned pros, right? So pros, it would be pros alelas. So the women are walking toward one another. Okay, but this alpha stem vowel is telling me that it is a genitive. that it is a feminine first declension form.
Being inflected for different genders.
For different genders. So what if I had ale loose? Then what's the case gender number of that? That's accusative, plural, and masculine. That's right. But this one is accusative, plural, feminine. You see? Make sense? All right. So good question. And by the way, alelon is not an adjective, is it? It's not an adjective. Yeah, or it's functioning as a pronoun. Yes?
On number 8, I have that it's plural, and the word means mine, or my.
Mm-hmm.
So would the...
wrong one, sorry.
So would the noun with it that would be plural? Because you can't make my plural?
Yeah. So in this case, pardon my pun here, you might want to translate it as my blanks, right? Where it's my plural things. If you had, let's go back and finish parsing it. What case gender number is this?
I put it as nominative or accusative.
Okay, so nominative or accusative, and that means it's going to be what gender?
Neuter.
Yeah, neuter, right? So put the N over here for gender. And then with that alpha, neuters are plural if they have the alpha, aren't they? Okay. And so whatever the my belongs with, it's my neuter things. Yes. And then what's the lexical form here? Yeah. Amos. And then again, since this is an adjective, and amon. and that's the feminine and the neuter. It's a 3-termination adjective. Now, the sense of the adjective is possessive. In English, we would call this a possessive pronoun. Okay? My something. There's a way to say your something. And whatever the my is modifying, so to speak, it's got to agree with it in case, gender, and number. All right? So if I were talking about my logoi, which are words, my logoi, you'd have to look what case, gender, number is logoi. What is it? Nominative, plural, masculine, right? Nominative, plural, masculine. So what form of amos would I use? Well, the nominative, plural, masculine, right? So I'd have to use what? Amoi, right? Amos becomes amoi when it's nominative, plural, masculine. It matches the noun. Amos, amu, amo, amon, amoi, amon, amois, amus. Just like logos. There's logos, lagu, lago, logon, logoi, logon, logois, lagus.
A lot of goose.
A lot of goose. Mm-hmm. Your goose is cooked. Okay. The point being that since this is an adjective, it must agree with its noun in 3 ways: case, gender, number. Okay. Now, here's a little spin. What if it were not an attributive use, but a substantival? Let's say I had something like ta and ma. How would you translate that? If I said something like ta, let's say Jesus said something like genosko, I know, ta ema. What's genosko mean? I know, and ta ema would be the accusative plural neuter, right? So I know the my ones. How would you translate that? Yeah, it might be something like I know my own, or maybe I know mine, right? Where the my here is functioning like a noun. Well, how do you turn my into a noun? You turn it into mine, right? That's my car, attributive use of my. Is it? Yes, that's mine. Now it's functioning as a noun. You see? You're like, all this English is making me crazy.
When you said that, I was thinking of my kids. That's mine. That's mine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Or that movie,
Mine?
Yep. Mine. That sounds like a movie I watched. Okay, so here. My blanks for attributive use. Okay, good. Others? I know you can't possibly be complete experts on this yet. Surely there's a question rattling around in that gray matter.
number 4.
Okay, so 5 and you said 4?
5.
Oh, 4 and you said 5. Okay, good. Oh no. Yeah, sure. We'll do 4 and 5. Okay, so necron. First thing you have to know, this is a matter of vocabulary. Is this a noun or an adjective?
Well, that could be called.
Well, in terms of the actual part of speech or word class, does it fall under the noun or adjective? In other words, if you found it in a lexicon, would it give you an article, one article to say it's only got one gender? Or would it give you 2 or 3 endings to tell you it's gotta reflect the gender of some noun that it might modify? You're given 3 endings in your lexical form. And that makes it what? Word class or part of speech. It is an adjective. So neck, cross, neck, craw, neck, craw. This is, by the way, why it's helpful to just get used to seeing all three forms when you parse it or writing them down. You don't get confused about what that part of speech that is. That's an adjective, and it has three terminations. All right? By the way, did you notice that agathos, its feminine form, has an eta here? Right? The alpha here on the cross is not an eta, right? Did that strike you as funny at all?
Yes.
Yeah? Do you notice that I've got a row right before that alpha?
R-E-I.
R-E-I. Yes, that's right. Okay, so let's see. Looking at the vowel, this omicron, that's going to give me a clue as to how to parse this, right? Because what declension pattern does the omicron follow? Yeah, that's a second declension. Now, what genders are my second declension? Masculine or neuter. So for right now, let's just assume that it could be either one. Let's go back and look at our case endings. So Greek handouts, let's look at those case endings. We want to look at all the case endings. Here we go. Do we have any news
Yes.
in our masculine and neuter forms? Yeah, we've got an accusative singular new if it's masculine. If it's neuter, we have nominative singular and accusative singular, right? So those are possibilities. Go back to your homework exercise, and we have to take account of that. Now, in this case, because there are different things based on the gender, we're going to want to go ahead and just split our line here. And so everything below the line applies to neuter, everything above the line applies to masculine. If this were a masculine adjective, what would be its case and number? Accusative and singular. If it's neuter, it's nominative or accusative singular. Okay? So you can't just put nominative accusative, put an S here, and put masculine or neuter without these dividing lines, or I'm going to think that you think that this could be a nominative masculine form. But that's not possible. Right? The nominative masculine form would have to have a sigma here, wouldn't it? All right. Now, how would I translate this? What does necros mean? Dead.
Dead or dead body?
Dead. Dead one. Dead body. Yeah. It could be something neuter dead or something masculine dead. So, since I have no context, I could just translate it as dead. And that would be perfectly good. It could be a dead man, dead woman. Nope, not dead woman, right? Because this is not feminine. So, dead thing, right? If it's a substantival use, or if it's an attributive use, dead blank, right? And some noun would go right here. Okay?
If you have a noun that's masculine, could it be dead, that noun, even if it's not like a man or something?
Yeah, so like a dead, a dead word. I could maybe think of some context where I could say that. You know, the Bible is a living word, and all other words are a dead word. Okay. Any questions about any of these other ones? Oh yeah, number 5. That's right. So we have escatus, and is it the case that my case ending is the sigma? Are you sure about that? Yeah, the stem vowel would be an upsilon here if sigma were the case ending. Do we have any upsilon stem vowels that we know of? No, but we sure do know about some omicron stem vowels, don't we? And that would mean that us would be the case ending. Do we have any us case endings? Yes, we do. Where are they? Accusative, plural. Right there. See that? There it is. Yeah, and masculine. Second declension, yeah? So, that makes it pretty easy. Could it be anything else? Accusative, plural, masculine. Could it be anything else? No. There's no use case ending anywhere else in your chart. What's my lexical form? So I got os, on, right? Oh, where's my accent? Yeah, it is actually on the front. Eschatos. Eschatos. So I started to write an accent mark, but I thought better of it. So there you go. And how would I translate this? Last, and it's got to be some masculine plural form, right? Last men, last men's. No, last men, last days. Well, days is feminine, himeros. Last words. Oh, yes. Why are we so morbid tonight? We have necros, last words. The world is coming to an end down here. Okay. So, or if it were a substantival use, it would be last ones, or last men, or last people. Or, there's no article here. So if you wanted to say something like, and put it in parentheses to indicate that there's not an article there, the last, the first, or the last shall be first. You could have.
If it was substantival.
Yeah, well, usually you have an article with it, but then no noun to follow it or to go with it. So it would be something like tous eschatus would be the last plural, masculine plural ones. Something like I love tous eschatus. I love the last ones.
But if it doesn't have the article, then eschatus would have to be in the nominative form?
If it didn't have the article, we could still have an accusative plural form. So let's say I said, I love eschatus. Then that would just be not definite. It's not I love the last ones, but simply I love last ones. Meaning, say, generally, what do you like? First people or last people? I like last ones. Right? So I'm not talking about a specific group of last ones, but just generically, I like last ones. Like I like last things. I know I'm sort of stretching, but I'm just trying to give you some examples, right? If this were the subject, though, the last shall be first. How would I see this? It would be hoi, nominative plural, eschatoi, right? I need a nominative plural form. Hoi eschatoi. The first are, or the first will be. Okay. Any other questions about the parsing? Just honestly, if you struggled with translating these forms because they're adjectives, welcome to the club. With no context, it's terribly difficult to know exactly how best to translate these. All right. Cosmu, by the way, is not an adjective. How do we know that? Number 6.
Because we know the word.
You know the word is what? Cos, and it takes the article ha. Doesn't it? That means it's what gender? Masculine. So no matter what, we know we have to put an M here for the gender, right? It's always masculine. What gender and number? What case and number is it? My case ending's upsilon, genitive and singular. So how would I translate this? Of, there's no article here, so I'm going to use the indefinite article in English. Of a world. Or of world.
If the lexical form...
Lexical?
If the lexical form is nominative, it can't be an adjective.
Well, no. The adjectives lexical forms will always be nominative as well, but you're always going to have 3 genders or 2 genders, or 2 forms, right?
So, but since it has an article and not the other...
Right.
Everywhere.
Exactly. That's how you can tell this is a noun and that's an adjective. All right. Anybody have any other questions about this?
Thanks for going over.
Yeah. Was anybody tempted to take number 3 and make it all 3 genders? What gender or genders could that form be? Masculine or neuter? Why not feminine?
Because feminine would be an Ada with the
That's
But doesn't
exactly.
the omega would have the Ada?
Well, let's talk about this. What's my lexical form of kako?
Okay,
Kakas. And it has a kake and a kakan. So that tells you it's what word class or part of speech? It's an adjective, right? If it's an adjective, then I do have the possibility of multiple genders here. What does this iota subscript tell you?
There's
But
dative.
it's dative singular.
Ah, you don't even have to know what gender it is, do you? You see an iota subscript, that's dative singular. Now, as to gender, when you have a dative singular, what happens to your stem vowels?
Changes to omicron.
Yes, omicrons become what?
Omega.
Omega, and you get that iota. What about your alphas and etas?
It's similar. It's an Ada.
Yeah, we'll get the subscript. Okay, the alpha can take a subscript. The short alpha lengthens to a long alpha, right?
Long vowels.
The eta is already long, so I don't lengthen it. But whenever I get the iota subscript, both of those we know are long because the iotas can only subscript under a long vowel. Okay, so these are my 2 possible feminine dative singular forms. Do I have that over here?
Negative.
Negative. I only have an omicron, which is a lengthened what? It's a lengthened, I'm sorry, I have an omega over here. It's a lengthened omicron. So this can only be second declension. That means it can only be masculine or neuter. And it's dative singular either way. So I'm not going to split this up and write dative singular twice because it applies to both genders. All right? By the way, what does kakas mean?
Evil.
Battery.
Bad or evil?
This is funny.
Evil, bad, yes. If you know Spanish, you can draw an association, right? Caca. Yes, and it's bad. It's evil. Yes.
Sometimes it's evil.
Okay. Moving along. All right. Any other questions here? We looked at these warm-ups real quickly on another occasion. But let me ask, are there any questions about what we did here? Maybe you went back and reviewed these. Any problems here?
For delta, that can be either attributive or predicate. Right?
What case is huion and agapeton?
Accusative.
Yeah. So could it be a predicate use if the adjective is accusative? Nope. So it's only attributive. That's the only possibility. So, good question. Here, pistos is nominative. So that's one where I've got that possibility. And in fact, that is the case. God is pistos. How do I know that's the predicate use? There's no article in front of it. My noun is definite. It's articular, and when it's articular, and the adjective is separated from it with no article in front of the adjective, then it's a predicate use.
Ada, I had sons of evil or the sons of evil, but he has sons of evil one or the sons of the evil.
Yeah,
Where's the one coming from?
Yeah, so the issue here is that we have two possibilities, okay? Tu paneru could be neuter or masculine. It's functioning as a substantival adjective. So it's either the sons of the evil masculine genitive singular thing, or the sons of the evil neuter genitive singular thing. Well, if it's masculine, the assumption is that it's referring to a person, in which case we would say the sons of the evil one, meaning the sons of the evil person, right? And if it's neuter, then it would be the sons of the evil thing, or it could be referring to the evil thing as evil, right? The sons of evil, meaning the sons of what is evil. So that's the difference in the translation there. Okie dokie. Well, let's move on to our translation homework. And here, we'll get a chance to actually see some adjectives in the flesh now, with real context wrapped around them. And we'll get to then ask ourselves these questions about, well, is the adjective articular or not? Does it occur in the nominative case, in which case it might be a predicate use? And if not, I would never go with predicate use. Is there a noun that the adjective shows up with, that it agrees with in case, gender, and number? If not, then it's a good candidate for being a substantival use. So these are all the things we're going to think about. So, are there any questions you have? Any numbers we want to go through on your end? And then I'll walk you through other ones that I want to teach you. Number 4. Let's read this in unison, shall we? Ready? Get that? Go. Ha theoron ton huion kai pistuon eis auton eche zoein ionion kai anastaso auton ego en te escate hemera. All right. Now, he translates ha theoron for you. So, well, he gives you theoron. You've got an article in front of it. So how should you translate that? Yeah, the one who sees. And since this is a participle, you don't know that, but it's a verbal form. There is an object of the verbal form. How do I know that this is a direct object? What tells me that it's the object of sees, the one who sees ton huion? Yeah, the case here. This is accusative singular case, right? And masculine. So it's accusative singular masculine for son. So the one who sees the son. And then we have kai pistuon. So and who believes. Eis auton. And him. Now, eis is a preposition, isn't it? What case does it take its object of the preposition in? Yeah, it's eis is plus the accusative. Is this an accusative noun? Or pronoun? Yeah? You see the new? Mm-hmm. Omicron is what declension? Second. Do we have news in the second declension? Yes. Did we already have a masculine noun over here? Yeah. So this pronoun seems to be referring back to the huion, right? The one who sees the son and believes in him, the son. Eke. He gives you he, sure, it has. But do I have a subject for has? Yeah. The one who sees and believes has. So don't don't insert the pronoun here because we have an explicit subject in the form of these. The one who sees and the one who believes has.
So we go back all the way to the beginning.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And why would we do such a thing? Well, what case is ha? It's nominative. So that's beginning my subject, isn't it? Because the nominative function is almost always subject. So the one who does these things has, eke. And then what does such a person have? What that person has, you would expect to be in what case? To have something. Accusative, because whatever they have is the direct object, right? Does that look like accusative case endings? Sure does. Tell me about zoane. What stem vowel is that? That's an eta. So what declension pattern does that follow? First declension. And in the first declension, do we have news for a case ending? Yeah, that's accusative singular feminine, right? Now look at ionion. Is that a noun or an adjective? Ah, that's an adjective, isn't it?
But it's a tutu.
Yeah, this is a tutu adjective. That is, it follows the second declension. What's the lexical form? Ionios. And the other form is ionion. Which genders does ionios cover? Masculine and feminine. This one covers what? Neuter. Okay, so when you have two termination adjectives, remember the first one is used for masculine and feminine. The second one is used for neuter, which makes sense because the neuter nominative case ending is a nu, isn't it, in the nominative? Yes?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Sigma is the nominative for what's typically the masculine second declension singular. But here, it's the masculine form's doing double duty for the feminine as well. So let's go back and look here. This omicron makes it look masculine, doesn't it? But I don't have a choice. I can't use the eta or the alpha here. There isn't a first declension form of ionios. I only have omicron stem vowels, whether it's masculine, feminine, or neuter. It's always going to be omicron. Okay? So, it doesn't look very masculine, but it doesn't look very feminine, but it is. And the nu here matches, right? These are the same case. So this is also accusative singular feminine. And that makes us what kind of an adjective? I've got a noun that it accompanies, it agrees with in the same case, gender, and number. This is an attributive. And it's telling me what kind of life. What kind of life does this person have? Yes, an eternal kind of life. So the one who sees and believes has eternal life. Kai anastaso. Translate that. Mm-hmm. And I will raise Altan. I will raise him. Now look at ego. Did we learn ego? Is that one of our vocab words?
Yes.
You know, we have the word ego that comes from this. It means what? It's I. And it's technically the subject of anastaso, but it happens back here.
Okay, that's what I was confused at because there's just a whole lot of pronouns.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm confused.
Right. Ego, you're going to learn the pronouns in a subsequent chapter, all the forms of it. But this is the nominative form. Okay? And that's your lexical form, by the way.
I don't get is that he adds Mounce to his I myself.
And I myself.
Yeah. Well, the fact that he uses the pronoun ego when he doesn't have to, because the verb has inherent within its ending I as the subject, does mean that he's giving prominence to himself as the subject.
Okay.
Okay? He doesn't tell you that. We haven't gotten to verbs yet, so you don't know that. But that is the case. So, and I will raise him. And it'd be honor in te escate hemera. Now, is one of these an adjective? Which one? Escate is the adjective. Is hemera an adjective? It's a noun. And te is an article. Okay? So does the adjective have a noun that it agrees with in case, gender, and number? Yes. You see the iota subscript here and here? On alpha and eta stems. So those are first declension, dative, singular, feminines, right? So they match case, gender, number. That's a good candidate for being what kind of adjective? Attributive. And is there an article in front of that attributive adjective? That's what we expect. Typically, don't, right? So we're going to go with attributive. And remember, attributive adjectives tell us what kind of noun. So what kind of day? Last day. So it's on the last day. On the last day. All right. Since this is not nominative, I should never assume this is a predicate use of the adjective, right? I wouldn't want to say the day is last, because it's not nominative case. Okay, good.
Number one, this is super small, but he puts in instead of on. Is that like because it's with a different form or something, like with a different type of adjective?
On number one,
Yeah, the word will judge him. He put in the last day, and I put on the last day.
I think either of those are fine. Yeah, Greek is using the preposition "en," and in English, when we're marking the location of a time as being at a day, we tend to use "on," right?
Right.
Isn't that's just
like
that's really just English.
Yeah.
So I think he's just trying to keep the preposition "en" the way you've normally translated it, but I would go with "on." Okay. Oh, by the way, while we're at it, let me ask you, why, this was true with the other one, why are all these forms dative forms? Okay, that's how we know they're dative. That's good. That's how you can identify it as dative. But my question is, why did the author use the dative case and not accusative? What requires the dative? The preposition "en." You see that? "En" preposition? So prepositions require their objects to be in a case. And "en" sometimes or always requires its object to be in the dative case. Which one?
Always.
It's always. The object of the preposition "en" is always in the dative case. Okay, good. Other questions?
Number 6.
Number 6. Shall we read this? Let's do it. Ready? Go. Esontai, hoi, eskatoi, protoi, kai, hoi, protoi, eskatoi. This is a little bit confusing. What does esontai mean? He must give you the meaning down here in the footnote, right?
They will be.
Yeah, so they will be. Now the question will be, should we use they as our subject pronoun, or do we have an explicit noun or subject that we can use and omit they? Yeah, we might have an explicit subject, huh? Hoi eskatoi. What case is hoi eskatoi?
Nominative singular. I mean, not plural. Not nominative plural.
Mm-hmm. And is it masculine, feminine, or neuter?
Masculine.
Yep. Good. So that's a possibility for being my subject, right? So we might translate this as what? The last, and there are a plural set of last, right? So the last or the last ones, esontai, will be protoi, first. So that's what that looks like in Greek, not Hebrew. Greek, by the way, the last will be first. You've read that in New Testament, haven't you? That's how it looks. Esontai, hoi eskatoi, protoi. So the last will be first. So, question. We've identified this as nominative plural masculine. So is that a noun or an adjective, by the way? What's the lexical form? Eschatos, eschate, eschaton. 3 termination adjective. So this is an adjective. Is there a noun that this agrees with in case, gender, and number? Is protoi, is that nominative? Is it plural? Is it masculine? Holy smokes. Is that a noun that this agrees with in case, gender, and number? What's the lexical form of protoi? Protos, prote, proton. Is that a noun? Is it a noun? If it has 3 terminations, is it a noun? No, only adjectives have 3 terminations. So this is an adjective. So this is not a noun that eschatoi is modifying, or otherwise it would be saying something like the last first ones, which is nonsense. Okay? The last first ones. So these are 2 adjectives. So if this is an adjective, is there a noun that this eschatoi adjective agrees with in case, gender, number? Is there a noun that it agrees with in case, gender, number? No. That makes this a good candidate for being what kind of adjective? A substantival one. That means it's behaving like a noun. What role does it have in this sentence? It's the subject. Is that what nouns usually do? Do nouns usually function as subjects? They do, right? So yes, this is certainly a good candidate. And then we're going to want to translate last with maybe, you could say the last, or you could say the last ones will be. Now look at protoi. Is this an attributive adjective? It's a predicate adjective. Okay. And I know that because, first of all, it's not attributive because there's no what that it agrees with in case, gender, and number. There's no noun with it. Okay? And and secondly, it's in what case? Nominative, which is what I expect a predicate adjective to be in. So the last will be first. And then, hoi protoi eschatoi. Same words, but they flipped, haven't they? We had the article with eschatoi, now we have the article with protoi. So which one of these is the subject? Yeah, hoi protoi is the subject. And the verb is implied from the first clause. And the first will be eschatoi last. And that one is now the predicate use of the adjective. You see? Make sense?
So the article.
I was just saying, it doesn't, when you explain it, it's.
It does now.
Yeah, it's clear in the thoughts and then.
Yeah. Well, that's why we get together.
So
We're going to mention it. Well, hold on. Kyle, were you going to say something?
Well, I was just going to say the article lets you know which of the 2 is the subject.
Yes. The one that is articular is the clue. Because I don't know if we've talked about this or not, but anytime I make a copular assertion that X is Y, where X is the subject and Y is some quality of the subject, the basic rule of thumb is that my subject is the known entity. It's the thing that I already have active in my mind. What that known entity is the new information. So, example, once upon a time there was a princess. The princess was beautiful. What have I done? I've used a copular construction, and the article went with what? The subject, right? Because I've now activated the concept of a princess in my mind, and now I'm going to use the article. The princess was beautiful. I'm going to use an adjective with no article there, you see. What quality that subject has is the thing I don't know yet. And that's what makes copular constructions informative. What makes copular constructions informative is not what the subject is. It's actually what the predicate is, right? That's the new information. Okay. Any questions?
10.
10. Well, since that's the last one, that's probably the hardest one, huh? Okay. Let's read it out loud. Ready? Get set, go. Ha agathos anthropos ek tu agathu thesaurou ek bale agatha kai ha paneros anthropos ek tu panerou thesaurou ek bale panera. Okay, so Taylor, were you the one who asked about this?
Yes.
All right, well, let me put you on the hot seat for a moment.
Awesome.
How did you, this is going to make nobody ask questions. How did you translate ha agathos anthropos?
The good man.
Mm-hmm. Okay, you're taking agathos as what kind of adjective then?
The nominative.
Yeah, it's nominative. Is it attributive, predicative, or substantive?
It's attributive.
That's right, because it's telling me what kind of anthropos, right? So, attributive use. Now, does this follow the rules for attributive adjectives? Yes. Is there a noun that it accompanies? Yep, anthropos is my noun, yes. Does it agree with anthropos in case, gender, or number? Yes. And since it's definite, is there an article in front of the adjective? Yes, so this fits the profile. Okay, so the good man, ek tu agathu thesaurou. How do you translate that?
From the good treasure.
Mm-hmm, from the good treasure. So, are you telling me that agathu is an attributive adjective as well?
Yes, I am.
It's telling you what kind of treasure, right? Now, does this follow what we know about attributive adjectives?
Yes.
Yeah, is there a noun that it agrees with? Case, gender, number? Look at that. That's genitive, singular, masculine, right? Or neuter. I'm trying to remember if it's thesauros or thesauron. Either way, we have an agreement in all these forms. And is there an article before the adjective? Yes. So that is definitely attributive. So from the good treasure. By the way, you guys know what the word thesaurus is?
It's a treasure of knowledge.
It's a treasury of knowledge, of synonyms. Okay. And then we have ekbale. He, she, or it brings out. Should I use the pronoun or do I have an explicit subject somewhere?
You have an explicit subject.
I do. And where do I find it?
All the way at the beginning.
That's right. It's nominative case, yes. So that's my subject. So we're going to, now in English, we're going to want to translate ekbale after the subject but before the ek prepositional phrase. So put it all together.
The good man from the good treasure brings out.
Mm-hmm. Or the good man brings out of the good treasure. And now I have agatha. Boy, that's the third use of the adjective agathos, right? Look at the ending here. What am I looking at here? We know that's an adjective. But what case ending is that? Well, plural, so potentially plural what?
Nominative or accusative.
Okay, so plural, nominative, accusative, and what? Gender.
Neuter.
Neuter. So neuter or nominative or accusative, plural, neuter. If that's the case, is there a noun that this happens next to that it agrees with in case, gender, number? No. What kind of adjective should I assume this is then? If it doesn't accompany a noun, it must be functioning like, yeah, it must be functioning like a noun, which is substantival. And so how am I going to want to translate this? Brings out good, what? Yes,
And so
but will
I-
you put things?
I did not. That was why I wanted to go over this. I didn't know where he got the word things from.
Well, because this is neuter plural, right? The object of the verb, what he brings out is some plural set of neuter things, right? So you could just say brings out good, but in Greek, the Greek word good is committing you to a gender and a number, right? In English, good could be any gender and any number, but in Greek we have more information. It's neuter plural, good. So should we translate it as brings out goods? No, we don't want to do that. We want to say something like good things. Now, if it were nominative plural and accusative plural masculine, it would be he brings out good people or good men, right? So you have to be careful and pay attention to the fact that this is a neuter plural substantival adjective.
So could I say like good objects as well? Like
Yeah,
the-
yeah, you could. But of course, in the context here, he's talking about ultimately the heart, right? So good things are going to come out of the heart of the man.
And you wouldn't use like brings up. Never mind, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I mean, I would just stick with things. Like things are usually neuter in our language, right?
Right.
So bring out good things.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Good. And then over here we flipped it in that we've switched from good to wicked or evil, right? Paneros. Everything else is the same, except paneros characterizes the man, the treasure, and what he brings out. Same kind of adjective uses, right? This first one is what use of the adjective? It's attributive. This one is also attributive. This one is the object of the verb. It's substantival, right? So how will you translate this, Taylor?
Evil things.
Whoa, we'll
Or
go back to the beginning.
Oh, sorry. The evil man from the evil treasure brings out evil things.
Exactly. And again, that alpha is functioning the same way as that alpha, right? Accusative, plural, and neuter. Sorry. Okay. By the way, this could also be nominative, plural, neuter, couldn't it?
Yes.
Okay. Why would we not go there in this context?
Because the noun is explicit.
Yeah, the subject noun over here that's nominative is already there, explicit. So you wouldn't have two different subjects of the same verb, would you? That is true. But I will tell you, and I think Mounce may have already given you this bit of information, sometimes neuter plural subject nouns can take a singular form of the verb. It is a characteristic of Greek. I don't like it, but we just have to live with it. Ladies first.
Okay, so why would we use
Paneros?
as opposed to kakos?
Oh, yeah, these are just two different words for pretty much the same thing. They're synonymous.
Okay,
Just like in English, we have evil and we have wicked,
okay.
right? Why would you choose one or the other? Sometimes there's a choice to be made. Sometimes synonyms are interchangeable in almost every circumstance. But sometimes there are certain contexts where we would use one noun and we wouldn't use the synonym. Let me give you an example. Take the expression toss up. Okay. In games 3, 4, and 5, when Houston went to New York to play the Yankees, I thought the games would be a toss-up. Instead, it ended up being a throw-up. Now, can I interchange toss and throw and mean the same thing? Would I ever say, oh, the game was a throw-up? No, toss-up is what we would say. right? Even though throw and toss, we threw the ball, we tossed the ball. They're completely interchangeable, right? It wouldn't sound weird to us at all to use one or the other. But it would sound really bizarre to say, oh, that was a throw up.
It did really
Yeah, you would say.
And it really was a throw up, wasn't it? Because they stunk out the house.
That's why you would throw it up. Like, throw it up. Instead of just throw it.
Protoss.
Well, I'm just saying, the expression a toss-up means it could go either way. But the expression a throw-up doesn't mean that. It means vomit. Which is how I think most of us felt.
Does that mean that the game was bad? Is that the...
Yes.
Okay.
So if your name was Chuck, someone wanted to say hello to you and they said, "What's up, Chuck?"
Yeah, there you go. Yes. Okay. Anyhow, does that help, Taylor?
Yes.
Good. Any other questions about these translation exercises? Let me get rid of toss up here.
I struggled with number 8.
Number 8. That is long.
And it was mostly like the second one.
Let's take a look at it. Again, let's practice by reading. Ready? Go. Okay, stop. No, do it in Greek, but I'm gonna have you do it by yourself. I'll start you with the first word. Ready?
Yes.
Everybody. Let them hear you in Greece. Make them throw up. Because they think the way you speak Greek is horrible. You use this old crazy scholarly pronunciation.
They probably speak English bad.
Okay, ready? Get set, go. Menate.
Inte agape te eme eantas intolas mu te resete menete inte agape mu kathos ego tas intolas tu patos mu teterica kai meno autu inte agape aute estin e intole e eme ina agapate allelos kathos Humas.
All right.
I like hummus.
Yes, hummus.
Hummus?
Very good. Well, we're given the meaning of the first verb. It's what? Remain.
Exclamation.
And this is telling you, looking at the N, which is a prepositional, it's introducing a prepositional phrase. This is probably telling you where to remain. Okay? Now, we have te agape te ame. I have two articles here. All right. Is agape a noun, adjective, preposition, verb? What do we got going here? It is a noun. Ame, that is what? It's an adjective. Ah. So notice the adjective is after the noun. Does it agree with that noun in case, gender, and number? Does it have the article in front of it? Yeah, so what kind of adjective is this? Attributive. Telling you something about the noun here, right? So what kind or which love? Whose love in this case? Yeah, so remain in the love the my. The love the my is my love. Remain in my love. What's aeon? If or when. Here we'll go with if. If tas entelasmu te resete. We're going to want to go to the verb here because what we have here with tas entelas is what case? Yeah, this is commands. I heard accusative. Is this accusative case? Accusative, plural, and feminine. Does that fit the profile for accusative, plural, feminine? It does. Remember, the genitive singular of the article is not tas, but taste. Hey, taste, tay, tain. Okay? So taste is the genitive singular. So this is, in fact, the accusative plural. And that means it's probably what? The direct object. Where do we usually put our direct objects in English? Before the verb or after the verb? After. So we're going to want to go grab that verb and translate it before the direct object. So if, te resite, if you keep, tas en tulas mu, my commands, plural, menete, you will remain, and te agape mu, in my love. Okay, in my love. You've learned mu is my, right? So in my love. Kathos, that's one you've learned, as or just as. Ego, I. Now look, I have tas and telos again. Has my case changed? No, same as this one, right?
Yeah.
So might that be a direct object possibly? Yeah, so I need to go find my verb first. Can we do that?
I mean,
Yeah, teterika. Okay, and he's giving you the translation. So just as I have kept, and now direct object,
my father's command.
yep, literally the commands of my father, which would be my father's commands. So just as I have kept my father's commands, kai meno, this is continuing the kathos, just as I do this and just as I do this. So just as I have kept my father's commands and just as I remain, now I have autu ente agape. This is a little bit weird, but what case is autu? What does it belong with? This belongs with that noun. Most of the time genitive nouns go after the noun that they are in a genitive phrase with. But here it happens to go before. So just as I remain in the love of autu. Who is autu? Yeah, remember the lexical form of autu is autas, which means he. Okay? But this is genitive, so this means of him. Well, when I say of him, I want to say what? His. So I could be literal, and just as I remain in the love of him, or I remain in his love. Haute esten. What does that mean? This is not aute with a smooth breathing, but haute, which actually goes with hutas, haute, and tuta. Okay, so those are the forms. Hutas, haute, tuta. What does that mean? This. Singular, feminine singular. This is hey entele, the commandment. Hey eme. There's my adjective. Is this attributive, predicate, or substantive? It's attributive. How do I know that? It agrees with the noun in what three ways? Case, gender, number. You see, entele is nominative feminine singular. Hey eme is nominative feminine singular. So whose command? My command. So this is my command. Henna, that. Here we're going to want to translate it as that. Although henna could also be translated as in order that. Or so that. Here, that. Because he's specifying what this commandment is. That, agapate, you love. And what form of allelus is this? You see the us case ending? Accusative. Yep, masculine and plural, right? So that you love, direct object, object of the loving, that you love one another. Plural one another, right? Always plural one another. That you love one another. Kathos, as or just as. Agapesa humas, just as I have loved you, or just as I loved you. Okay? All right.
Uses the first sentence, te agape, te eme, and then the second one, te agape mu.
They end up meaning the same thing. It's just that, and Michelle asked this last week at the end of class, I think. Where did it go? When you have mu, that is the genitive singular pronoun, ego. And ame is the adjective. That means my. So this is literally the love of me, which we would then, paraphrase as my. This is literally my commandment and my love, wherever that was.
At the top.
There it is, yeah, my love. He could have said ente agape mu just as well. And we translate them both the same way. Yeah. Why an author switches to mu here, I'm not sure. To me, they're completely interchangeable. I'm not really sure what to make of that. And I wouldn't try to make too much of it, because they mean the same thing. All right. Any other questions about this? Devon, were you going to ask for it?
So, I guess I struggled with this because I need to get down like my English grammar, word order.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so this is where I noticed that
Yeah.
I need a version.
Mm-hmm. Right. Okay. Any final questions here? Final questions.
I have a question.
Mhm.
For pronunciation, I think it was number 7. The
Mhm.
first word,
Mhm.
pronounce both of those accents.
Yeah, because the may over here does not have an accent, it sort of leans backward on the preceding word for the accent, as it were. So it would be rusataime. Rusataime. This is called an enclitic, and that it leans back on the preceding word. And proclitics lean forward on the next word for the accent.
And I remember 7, the last word,
Mm-hmm. Epuranion. Mm-hmm.
For this one, I guess I need to remember that it's an adjective in the omniprenu. I had to look for the verb, the noun that it governs.
Yeah. What you have to know is that based on the lexical form, this is a two-termination adjective. So it would be epuranios and epuranion. Okay, and so masculine and feminines will look masculine. The neuter form will obviously keep looking neuter. And here I have tein basileon, feminine, singular, and what case? Got the news here? Accusative, right? And then I have tein, so there's my noun. Here's my adjective. It has the article in front of it, so it's an attributive. So it really does match the case gender number here, but it doesn't look very feminine, does it? But you've got to remember that since this is a two-termination adjective, the masculine accusative singular looks just like the feminine accusative singular. They're identical to each other. All right, so it's the kingdom, the heavenly. Now you've got the possessive pronoun, genitive. So the kingdom of him, the heavenly, which would be his heavenly kingdom. What kind of kingdom? Right, heavenly kingdom.
I had a question on that one as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because he says, and save me. Where did he get me? And like he says, and save me into his heavenly kingdom. Where did he
So this is number 7. Okay, the Lord will rescue me from every evil work. And so say, yes, you're right. The may is missing. You would have expected it to go right after so say, right? But what you're going to find in Greek, and if you are godly enough to take Hebrew, I'm just kidding. That when you have a word in a prior clause, and you could repeat it in the next one, oftentimes Greek and Hebrew will omit it and use a verb like this, where you're sitting there going, well, save is what's called a transitive verb. It expects a direct object, but there's not one here. So where would you go to find the object? Well, you look at the preceding clause. You can recover the object easily from the context. Deliver or rescue and save has the same object. He will rescue me and he will save. Right, you're going to supply me. Right, you know that the only possible object there is me. But why waste ink and paper and repeat yourself?
Do you see that a lot?
Yeah. Yeah.
What was this called?
There's 2 terms for it. Ellipsis. Right, when you have ellipsis, you have something missing that's assumed. And another term for it is called gapping. There's a gap here, right? There's nothing. There's a gap where you're expecting the object, but you can recover it from the preceding context. I'll give you an example in English that we could use. I don't know if we've used this before. I could say something like, I love peanut butter. My wife, chocolate. Okay. Can you even make sense of the sentence, my wife, chocolate? Yo, my wife, chocolate. No. You must bring over this verb and insert it in the gap. The syntax requires it. Okay? And without bringing it over, at least mentally, it doesn't make sense. But you know that the only possible thing I'm saying here is that my wife loves chocolate, right? And that's an example of gapping. Usually in gapping or ellipsis, the full expression is in the first sentence, and it's the next sentence or clause that is missing something that you're supplying from the prior one. This is a way of keeping a discourse cohesive, tying it together, because you can't make sense of the second one without the first, so you have to read them together. Yes?
In a situation like that, in English, they'd often use like a semicolon and comma to show the gapping. Can you rely on that in Greek?
Well, I mean, the punctuation is supplied for you, but yeah, I mean, usually you're going to know that you've come to the end of one clause and you've started another. For example, here, I've got the kai that's joining 2 clauses, right? And so, I guess you could see a semicolon, or you could see a period and just a new clause, but it's still going to rely on the grammar of the prior clause, because you're still going to be mentally supplying some element from it to make grammatical sense of it. All right. Well, let's stop there. We'll do a short break, and when we come back, we'll look at chapter 10.